So an update on this year's trips for 2023. It's been not the best year, not an easy year to get through, that's for sure. But I had gone on about half a dozen trips, so went to a bunch of parks, went to a bunch of places, saw quite a few amazing things. Of the half a dozen trips that I took this year was going out to Philly to buy a car. That was an interesting experience. Then I flew out to Channel Islands and went to Gunlock Falls in Utah. And that was a bucket list item that was one of the highlights of the year, that's for sure. After that, I hit my 7th trip to Zion. Then the next trip was a road trip all the way down to Texas in the new car. So that was also an experience. And the Texas trip was definitely the least enjoyable of all of the trips I'd taken this year. Just a number of things, some inconveniences, some mishaps, some lost equipment, some lost footage that's never coming back off of the GoPro, to very, very unpleasant reminders about still going on all of these amazing trips and seeing all of these amazing places by myself and not having anyone special to share these moments with. So there was, that trip especially had a lot of very powerful reminders of that were beyond my control, and definitely didn't help the mood of the week. After that, I took a birthday trip down to American Samoa. Check that one off the list. It took me about a solid day and a half of travel, almost 2 days. By the time I got to the final destination, it was 2 days. But that was one of the most amazing trips that I took this year. And as expensive as it was, and as long as it took to get there, I definitely think I want to go back. It was really cool. I'm not a beach guy, but that beach was spectacular. Absolutely spectacular. So definitely it's something I'm thinking about for later down the road after I get the rest of these parks out of the way. After that, the very next month, I turned around and spent a week in Alaska to get a couple of those parks off the list. So that was overall kind of a dreary trip. It was just kind of raining and overcast most of the time I was there, with the exception of the day and a half I was at Denali. It cleared up just enough to be absolutely amazing. Never, ever, ever gonna get those conditions all at the same time ever again. There was fresh snowfall, nice dusting. The tundra was just lit up red and orange and yellow all the way up the slope, and it was clear enough to see most of the mountains with some spotty blue sky through the clouds. So it was quite impressive. So that one was another highlight. At least the Denali portion was another highlight of this year's trips. Then in the middle of festival season, right after I came back from Denali, I had a great idea to fly out to New Mexico and catch the eclipse. The eclipse is going right over the airport. So I caught a series of flights out, stepped outside of the airport, took my pictures, stepped back into the airport, and flew home. And that was another memorable experience. That's the 4th eclipse that I have seen, at least partial or annular or whatever. And it was a good practice run for the one coming up in April, which I still haven't decided where I'll be at for that one. Most of the places in the States are, 50% cloudy in the forecast, so not sure exactly how that's going to work out. I guess we'll have to see. So in total for those half dozen trips, I ended up taking 22 different flights through 12 different airports. So I was on 8 different carriers through the various trips. I was on Spirit, Hawaiian, Samoa, American, Delta, Alaskan, Denali Air, and United. And of all of those, Hawaiian was the most frustrating. Their customer service was the absolute worst. Their policies for changing flights, the absolute worst. I am definitely avoiding using them as an airline as much as possible. They definitely screwed me out of at least $500 that I couldn't get back. So wasn't terribly happy with that. But the best service that I used was Alaskan. I was quite surprised that all of their seats had extraordinary amounts of legroom. So it was very surprising. And their policies were really great for changing flights and refunds, etc. So if I can in the future, I will be using them. And I did just see an article that Alaskan bought Hawaiian. It's going to be a few years before those policies will really go into effect. But I was very happy to see that, because that means that hopefully Hawaiian won't have such terrible policies in the future, but it's going to be a couple years before I'll take that chance again. So, and over the course of those trips, I ended up doing one overnight greyhound, and that was an experience. I had a picture in my mind what that would look like, just from being on coaches and other tour buses, but it was definitely not what I expected. Mostly just a really long haul city bus experience. Thankfully the kid next to me was very clean and very quiet, so it could have been worse, that's for sure. And then I also had 5 different rental cars. So between the rental cars and my own car on the various road trips, like I drove Texas instead of renting a car, I put about 7,000 miles on the road. So not an insignificant amount either. And all of those miles driven and flights taken enabled me to visit 17 states this year and 1 U.S. territory, Samoa. And with that, I also visited 11 national parks, 7 of which were new. I hit Channel Islands, Zion, Big Bend, Carlsbad, Guadalupe Mountains, White Sands, Gateway Arch, Denali, Katmai, and Kenai Fords. So 7 of them were new. The trip to Channel Islands, check that one off the list. That was number 50. 51 and 52 were Big Bend and Guadalupe. 53 was American Samoa. 54 was Denali. 55 was Katmai. And 56 was Kenai Fords. So I've got 7 parks left to go. 5 of them are left in Alaska. You got Dry Tortugas and Virgin Islands. So I'm almost there. But of the trips this year, the highlights are definitely Gunlock Falls Like, words cannot describe how I felt when I came around that corner, and the water was perfect, the sky was perfect. I was so happy. It was one of the few moments of joy that I've had this year. And the other top of the list, probably the top place that I went this year, my favorite, the highlight of the year, was Samoa. Especially Oahu Island. It was awesome. A remote island in the southern hemisphere. That one was incredible. Got to see the Southern Cross, got to see Alpha Centauri, got to see the large and small Magellanic Clouds, got to watch the Milky Way set upside down. It was really cool. The beaches were awesome. The coral was amazing. So it was very much worth the expense and the time to get to the other side of the world and back. And then a close third for the trips this year would probably be Denali. Like I said, that weather was perfect, and I'm never gonna get those conditions ever again. So I will have to cherish that memory, even though, again, I didn't have anybody special to share it with. So it was another lonely year. So my total for the year on hiking was, I think, just over 300 miles. So between all those trips and all those miles by myself in the woods, that was an awful lot of time for me to think about all of the decisions that I made over the course of the year, over the course of the end of last year. Things I said, things I didn't say, things I should have said, things I should have done, things I did, things I wish I hadn't done. Just a bunch of just regrets and beating myself up over what was said and done in the past. Like I said, I almost found somebody special to share all these experiences with, but through those choices and those decisions, that door was very much slammed shut. Thought I was good. I thought I found that person, but a slight misunderstanding and no chance to hear me out for clarification kind of put an end to that one real quick. That was very frustrating. And then, surprisingly, I only went down to the astronomy park essentially just for one series of trips. It was almost a year since the last time I'd been down there. It was last Thanksgiving when I hit the deer, which is also on the list of regrets, because I probably wouldn't have hit that deer if the situation had worked out different. But I almost went a whole year without going down to the park. And then November came around, and I think I went down there, 4 times in a matter of 6 nights. So I definitely got the astrophotography out of my system a little bit then, and got some pretty good stuff, like this picture of Andromeda that is probably about as best as I'm ever gonna get. And one of the other side effects of just everything that was going on that really hit me this year was I started gaining weight, and it was not good weight. When I saw the picture of myself after I bought my car, I was not happy with what I saw, and I knew I had to change. So this year I definitely think I got myself in better shape. Not the shape I want to be yet, but I'm getting there. That's just another great example of how your mental well-being can definitely affect your physical well-being. So it's a struggle for sure. It definitely has not gotten any easier, but I'm just trying to keep on it day at a time. Hopefully a new year, new opportunities, and a lot more amazing places to come.